Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your moderator from CCTV China, Tian Wei, along with today's panel on China and Africa.
Madame et Monsieur, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Tian Wei from CCTV. It's a great pleasure to have you on this panel, which is China and Africa Partnership for the Future. When you have a history of hundreds and thousands of years, which is the case for the African continent, you always have a lot of ancient wisdom hidden in those traditional sayings. So over the past few days in Africa, thanks to the New York Forum Africa, I tried to learn some of those ancient wisdoms. One of this is called the prosperity of the tree is the well-being of the birds, certainly suggesting the importance of partnership and shared interests. Another thing, probably you are already familiar with, it takes a whole village to raise a child, suggesting it is important for everybody to play its role for something good in the future. So, with those ancient wisdoms coming from African continent, let's go into today's discussion. The topic, once again, China and Africa Partnership for the Future. We're going to discuss some structural issues. One is, in what area will the most valuable partnership to be found between China and Africa? The other is, what opportunities do Chinese involvement in Africa present to African companies? To analyze and also answer these questions, and welcome to the stage 4 Chinese and 1 African representative. Let me introduce, great honor, Mr. Yang Chonghui. He is the Vice Chairman of China Economic and Social Council. 杨崇慧先生来自于中国经济社会理事会副主席，有请。Also, let's welcome Mr. Gao Shiqing, Vice Chairman and President of China Investment Corporation China. Welcome. 高希庆先生，中国投资有限责任公司副董事长、总经理。Mr. Song Dongsheng, President of Sino-Hydro Group in China. Welcome. 宋东升先生，中国水电建设集团国际工程有限公司总经理。Ms. Yan Lan, the only lady, but welcome her, Head of General and Greater China Investment Banking of Lazard, China. Welcome. Last, but certainly not least, Mr. Zhang Ping, the chairperson of the Commission of the African Union. I have to say, Mr. Ping is really a very culturally relevant person for this discussion. He's half Gabonese and half Chinese. Wow, what a partnership. Thank you so much, all our panelists, for joining us. Let's start from our CEOs coming from China. Mr. Gao, your company is dealing with China's sovereign wealth fund. Tell us, is there any difference when you invest in Africa compared to investing elsewhere in the world?
Well, we invest in over 100 countries in the world, and Africa, as such a large continent, it certainly has its own special features. But if you really want us to see what is so different than Africa, is probably a lot more dynamic and a lot more rapidly changing continent. And we've been, other than the old continent of Europe and North America, we certainly invest in many of the emerging markets. But even among the emerging markets, Africa is so much more exciting and interesting and diversified that we love to come to this continent. Of course, there are many specifics where you have to, each country has its own special characteristics.
But then you heard yesterday, our colleagues and friends from the United States, they're already seeing the urgent need, quote unquote, to come and invest in Africa. Competition for you?
Well, we don't compete with Americans. They are the capital market. If you count your investment as the percentage of the capital market in the United States, that counts for almost half of all the world's capital markets. So, how do you compete with that? And for them, Americans have been in this continent for a long time. And we are, despite of all the income investment in Africa, China only accounts for a few percentage points. Whereas the Western powers have been here forever, and they account for more than 90% of all the, especially the resources, minerals, the investment. So, we don't compete. We come here to cooperate.
Well, okay. Well, Mr. Gao is coming here to cooperate by investing into Africa. As the African saying goes, the road to the market is not only one, but several. So let's go to Mr. Song. Mr. Song is dealing with the real projects on the site here in Africa from Sino Hydro. Well, you're a state-owned company, but you're also a listed company. So that mixed identity, what does it mean for the nature of your business in Africa? Is it about business for business sake, or rather you are doing part of the diplomacy? What is your role?
Okay, my English is not so good, but I try to use English to answer your question. Yes, Sino Hydro is a mixed company. We are state-owned and we are listed in Shanghai stock market. But we are enterprise. We are purely commercially operated company. So, we need to have profit. We need to survive. So same as other company. Without profit, the company will be bankrupt. I will lose my job also. Chinese government does not interfere our operation, our business. Okay.
So you make your decision, namely?
Yes.
All right, so tell me about your decision. Because right now, as your operation in Africa expands, there are certain challenges. For example, the safety of your property, the safety of your personnel. For example, your company experienced some of the recent cases.
Okay.
So tell us, how do you face that challenge, first of all? And secondly, what do you think the governments in different countries in Africa can do to help you and many other investors from different parts of the world?
Okay, the decision of business, has been made by the company, by somebody, including me. But I need to report to my management also. But of course, the deal will depend on our client ourselves. That means depend on Africa countries and Sino Hydro ourselves. This is the first. But your second question is about security. I think now the general situation of security in Africa continental is much, much better than a few years ago. If you compare it with 10 years ago, much, much better. I think the possibility of large-scale war, instability, the chance is very, very small, very small. So, but of course, something happens already, local instability, emergencies happened. For the Africa country, regarding of this, I have some, points. The first, I believe, Africa countries can do a lot regarding of this, particularly for the companies like Sino Hydro, because we are our project are located in rural area, generally speaking. So we need strong support from the government, Africa government. This is the first. Second, the problems, I think the security problem can be solved through development also. If the banking system, can be completely, in rural area, so we do not use cash. So we use banking system. So, the rubble, can be much, much less. Third one. Second one. Third one is, when something happened, I think, we need to think how to handle it. Not the first thing, not only back out, not only withdraw from the country, from the site. I can give you an example. We have a project in Mali, filo hydropower, the problem everybody knows. But when the problem comes, Shanghai Hydro together with our client, OMVS, we work together, and the local government will work together. They give us visas to Senegal. They give us armies to protect us. So we continue. We never stop one day for construction. No one Chinese left the site.
All right, and your fourth point very briefly, is that all?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Ms. Yan. Ms. Yan, I would say you are actually a little bit different from the other two gentlemen who just spoke. In fact, you're working for a foreign company in China, and you are assisting Chinese companies to do investment in Africa. Tell us how they work and how do you find your niche here, not only in the company, but also on this panel.
Good question. Thank you. So yes, as all the service company, we follow our clients. So we notice more and more Chinese companies come here for their investment in Africa. So this is the reason why we're here to provide them our expertise in financial sector, in the financial valuation, and also in the structure of the finance and the projects. So, for example, we will be very happy to work with Sino Hydro. We are talking about some projects together. So I think the Chinese companies also need expertise for the service company who has already long time experience in Africa to give them advice here. I think it's important for them to be successful for their project here.
How big a market is there really for that? How big a market is it for you about that?
Oh, it's a potential market. It's very big. We need to develop.
Well, earlier during our pre-communication, you talked about the importance of diversification when it comes to China's investment into Africa. Later, we're of course going to have Mr. Gao to address that as well. But can you briefly tell us your idea first?
Yeah, so I think for the time being, so we can see actually China in Africa. First of all, China is the biggest #1 trade partner in Africa. And concerning the China FDI, it's not yet the first one. According to statistic in 2011, trade volume has reached to 166 million US dollar. And China FDI in Africa is only 2.1 billion US dollar, but it's increasing. What is the model for China FDI here? So we notice it's mainly direct investment in form of EPC, turnkey contract, and some of them has a BOT form. And also part of them, some Chinese companies, more Chinese companies are doing M&A here with strong Chinese government financial support. But in which sector? So first of all, it's mainly in mining and resources. I think it's interesting to also to notice, and maybe it's a stage for change of model of China investment. We need diversified investment more in, infrastructure, agriculture, we mentioned this morning in the other panels, in education and healthcare. So I think all the sectors Africa needs. So the Chinese investment need also to diversify, oriented in this sector with the Chinese government support.
Well, now we already have a review of all of these top Chinese CEOs coming from China, talking about their needs and their perspectives. Let's go to Mr. Yang. Thank you for being patient with us, Mr. Yang, because you can answer this question about policy. 我们现在有请杨先生给我们讲一讲，尤其呢就是中国在对非投资和对非合作方面，到底有没有一个国家的整体的战略和一种整体的眼光 ？We want to know whether China really has a coordinated vision and coordinated set of strategies when it comes to investment in Africa, when it comes to doing business with African partners. Mr. Yang, you are the most appropriate person to address this issue. Go ahead, 有请。
请允许我用中文来回答这些问题。那么，我认为呢，中非合作肯定是有计划的，但是这个计划呢，不是由中方一家来决定的，而是由中方同我们众多的非洲国家共同来拟定的。那么，它就充分体现在我们历次的中非合作论坛和部长级会议所形成的文件之中。那么今年7、8月份呢，还要举办新一轮的中非合作论坛和第5次部长级会议，那么将对中非合作做出一轮新的部署。中国，我们走的是一条发展市场经济、全方位对外开放的和平发展道路。30多年来，中方对外开放、引进资金、技术，很多合作项目，过去主要是以与发达国家的合作为主。大家可以看到，中国的制造业，也到北京街头看一看，满街的汽车品牌，要不就是欧洲的，要不日本的，要不是美国的。所以中国取得了成功。那么中国同发展中国家的合作不断得到加强，那也是应有之义，也是必然的趋势。尤其中国同非洲，我们经济的互补性很强，互为市场非常广阔，潜力很大。比如说，我们去年双方的贸易就超过了1600亿美元，那么差不多进口和出口一半对一半，这就说明这个贸易啊是平衡的。当然，发达国家呢，我们有些跟它有贸易不平衡的问题。如果它发达国家能把我们需要的、想要的东西都卖给我们的话，我想这个贸易平衡的问题啊，也会逐步得到解决，是吧？所以，我就说呢，我们是中非这个合作啊，这个计划呢，是我们共同来拟定的，不是中方一家来拟定的。
您刚才讲到中非之间的贸易和合作互补性很强，但是中国在发展制造业，非洲也希望进一步发展制造业，所以在多大程度上，尤其在不远的未来，还有这种互补性呢？ You talk about complementary when it comes to China and Africa when doing business. However, you see China's economy very much still is focusing on manufacturing, even though there's a structural reform going on with the economy. And Africa is also looking at the future possibility of strengthening its manufacturing sector. So how long can that complementary side go on? 杨先生。
那么我觉得这个互补性呢，它始终是存在的。当然，不同的发展阶段上，这互补性呢有所不同。比如说在制造业上，将来非洲可能也会发展制造业。那么制造业的发展会不会同中国形成竞争呢？我觉得这种竞争是必然的。非洲的产品如果质量也很好，又便宜，为什么中国不可以进口呢？所以呢，我认为啊，这种互补性呢，它尽管现在看起来有竞争，但是并不影响我们的合作。那么在将来非洲进一步的发展，购买力增强了，那么中国有的产品，尽管可能价钱比非洲要贵，但是非洲也会购买。所以我认为啊，这个互补性它是一个发展中的一个概念，但是它始终具有互补性。
Well, I guess a lot of our African friends are hearing the very positive message. China will continue with the increase of imports from Africa. That certainly is good news for many of our friends here. So with that regard, let's go to Mr. Ping. Chairman Ping, it's great to have you, certainly. Many of our Chinese friends are very familiar with you. Thanks for the efforts you have done for the China-Africa partnership. Let me ask you, has Africa, from your perspective, taken good advantage of all the investments and the partnerships when it comes to trade and economy coming from China so far?
Well, let me make some remarks, both in
Go
French
ahead.
and English. First, when we met in South Korea for the G20, the Prime Minister of India proposed that those who are extra saving, extra money, should invest where you need this money. Where do you have extra saving? Where do you need investment? Today, extra saving are in Asia, in China, in India, and also in the Middle East, in the Gulf. The rest, they need money. In Europe, Greece is bankrupt. You can buy Greece today. So, they need money. Okay, Europe need money, America need money, we need money. Probably more than them, but we need money. Okay, what to do? If we see the Chinese investment in the world, you will notice that, but you might correct me, more than 70% of the Chinese investment are in Asia. Then the investment, Chinese investment in Europe is double of the Chinese investment in Africa. This is fact. So why should we turn around? This is facts.
I'll have Mr. Gao to answer that later, but please go ahead with further answers.
So you see, now, having said that, it has been admitted that the development needs investment, trade, and also ODA assistance. Let's forget about ODA. No more. The government have no more money. They continue to claim that we'll increase or we keep the assistance as it is. It's not true. So we remain with investment and with trade. So the investment, we need the Chinese investment, like everybody, like Europe, like America, like Asia. We need Chinese investment. We need Indian investment. We need Korean investment. We need Middle East investment. Those who have money
Right.
to invest. So don't make politics. Don't be too nice. Let's go to the subject. These people who are here, they don't want to see diplomacy. They want to hear, things clearly said.
Let's say things clearly. Let's say it. Mr. Ping, my original question as well, because you tell the other side of the story already, that you need investment and also cooperation from China for one goal, that is prosperity on both sides, win-win. Let's answer the other side of the story. Has Africa taken full advantage of the cooperation with China over the past, let's say, decade?
Well, I think so. First of all, to get married, it should be two, which means both sides. Okay. Then, to feed the fast-growing economy of China, you need our raw materials. There is no other way. You need oil, you need mines, you need them. China need raw material to feed their fast-growing economy with two figures. We need to sell our raw materials, to whom? To China. The demand of the world comes from China. Demand of oil, demand of mineral, demand of everything. So we have the offer, you have the demand, So it is something which is unavoidable. You can't have this oil in Europe, or you'll have it here in a certain number of countries,
Yes.
including here, raw material, etc. So there is a need to have a deal, what you call win-win deal. Fine. Now, this is in terms of investment. We are doing everything to attract investment, not only the Chinese investment, the American investment, the
Right.
European investment. What are we doing? First, the country has been confronted to a certain number of wars. It is almost over. I said it this morning, maybe they were not, I'm not going to repeat it. It's almost over. We still have two main wars in Somalia and Sudan. People of southern Sudan, they are here. I saw them a few minutes ago.
Yes.
And this is a country, you know, they are there. China has a crucial role to play there because they are working with the two governments. They are best friend of southern Sudan. They are also best friend of Sudan. So we are asking them to play a role in order to find a solution in outstanding problems in that country. But to make a long story short, we have succeeded in pacifying the continent. This is the first condition you need. The second condition is to attract investment, to have a good governance. We are also doing it, have a good governance, you know, making our macroeconomy attractive, making our laws attractive for foreign investment, signing protection investment, not only on the level of the World Bank with the MIGA, but also on the National Bank. I think that, you know, the members, I recognize many members of government here, including, of course, the Minister of Finance. And they have been signing a lot of protection of investment on bilateral level.
Right.
But in the middle, also, we can do it on a regional level and also on African level. Let me tell you what we are trying to do with the Arab countries.
The African level, that would be interesting to follow up a little bit with, because there have been talk about the code of trade among African nations when dealing with traders and partners elsewhere, for example, with China. Do you think that plan is viable? How matured is that idea so far?
Which idea?
The code of trade, of doing business.
Oh, yes.
As a whole with Africa.
Well, concerning trade, I think I already mentioned some of these things which we are trading with China. For the first time in the history, I would have said of the humanity, les termes de l'échange have been favorable to African countries. Historically speaking, the raw material price was declining relatively to the manufactured product. Today it has been changed. The price of raw material is increasing. The price of manufactured products are declining. These two reasons because of China. China is selling to us not product coming from Christian Dior or I don't know whom, but T-shirt. We need T-shirt, you know, very cheap, you know. And that explains the fact that the term of exchange has been improved in our favor. Okay. So now I think that what we need is to have more elaborated exchange with China in terms of what are we going to sell to China, not only raw materials. You have to try to diversify it, to transform certain number of these products locally. I think you will win. Instead of transporting raw material, iron ore, with all these, I don't know, but transform some of them here, and then you export them, transformed, you will win. And we also will win.
All right.
You know, that some of the things which I would like to say, asking you to be here for the assistance, more dynamic.
I see a lot of more encouragement coming from your side. Let's have Mr. Gao to respond at least to the previous question, whether it's an accusation or it's a question coming from Mr. Ping that China has not invested as much as it did or it does elsewhere, for example, into Europe. Why not Africa, according to Mr.
I'm not
Ping?
accusing, I'm just noting.
All right, Mr. Gao, take that question.
It's good to be here, but many people here who think that the investment of China goes only to Africa. It's wrong.
Mr. Gao.
Okay. You know, we, at least as far as my company is concerned, we're a sovereign wealth fund and a financial investor. You know, financial investors would not invest in things other than most liquid assets usually, because you know for all these years, frankly, we're all doing things on what we would call the sort of Western established rules. And our people, you know, our company is staffed mostly by Chinese, but they're all trained by Westerners. Therefore, you know, we got conditioned on investing in things that are liquid. And in their terms, being liquid means you invest in very liquid and fundable and large capital markets. And that's in the United States, in Europe. And if you count for all the assets in the world, and the developed market accounts for more than 95% of the capital market. Therefore, when we first started in 2007, we thought for a while we would have to be liquid because you know the state government would want us to be liquid. So we put all our money into the capital market depending on the respective contribution of the capital market. Therefore, the whole emerging market accounted for only 5%. But then today, 4.5 years after the fact, you can see that our investment in the emerging markets greatly increased from that level. Now it's more than 1/3 of the market. It's a 34-35%. But still, if you think about it, you know there are over 170 countries in the emerging market, and you know divided up, that 35% is still a small percentage. And also Africa in the past have not been well represented in the capital market. I know there are a few major stock markets in this continent, and I personally visited a few, the one in South Africa and the one in Nigeria, and in the various places. But still, if you actually look at the you know, according to the Western terms, the liquidity and the so-called rating, you know, grades, they're still low. So gradually, we're changing our mind, and we're changing our perception of this continent. And in fact, we're putting more and more money into what we would call direct investment and alternative investment. Only in that regard can you actually invest more in this market, because otherwise, you know, we have a committee that would evaluate the relative viability of a project. And if they look at the ratings, they look at the thing, they say, well, no, you know, most of the African countries would immediately be excluded. So we are changing these things, but it takes time. And the reason why we're here, you know, CIC has sent out teams to this continent for the past 4 years, many times, way beyond the amount of money we invest in this continent. You know, right now we still have, you know, 1/3 in North America, 1/3 in Europe, and in this continent, all the investment we have made already accounts for less than 1% so far. But we've been talking to many companies, and we've been talking to many potential projects, and eventually, probably within the next year or two, that percentage point is going to increase. But it's a challenge, as you see. You know, when I'm sitting here, I've been in this continent for the past 6-7 days, and I've not been able to read my emails from my BlackBerry. That's a huge frustration. And you know, we need to improve on these things. We need to try to get these things corrected so that we can really function on those things. Because of course, you know, I'm not complaining. I'm saying, you know, we probably need to invent something that would, do away with those things, so that we don't have to, you know, use BlackBerry. We should use some African telecom to work on it.
That will be fascinating. I'm looking forward to that. On the other hand, I have to ask you, Mr. Gao, it's better. It's better. All right. Mr. Ping promised already, right? We take it as a promise. It's better. Let's just follow up a little bit, Mr. Gao, because previously, Mr. Lin Yifu, the person who has made it to the highest position in the World Bank from China originally, suggests something interesting, and it has to do something with our topic today, which is investment into the emerging and developing market. He was throwing out a crazy idea, some say, that let all the money, the extra money that we have also here, not only in China, the rest of the world, Instead of doing stimulus packages in their own country, let's put the money into those emerging and developing countries to make a profit and have good return for these investments. How is it likely, do you think, Mr. Gao, that image could happen, let's say, for the future of the growth of Africa, not only for China, but also for other parts of the world, seeing Africa as a wonderful destination?
Well, that really takes the concerted efforts of all the governments in the world, because today, so long as we're talking about cooperation so much more than, say, 30 years ago or 50 years ago, still, most countries would still view export, import as with the sort of mercantility attitude. The reason why China has accumulated so much foreign currency reserve, over $3 trillion, is exactly because of that sort of mentality. As I see it, we should not have accumulated that much. We should have done it probably earlier, much more to other countries. But because of that attitude, and because of that attitude in other countries as well, one of the reasons for the CIC to have been established in 2007 was the major reason was because of pressure from the Western countries, United States and Europe. At the time, they've been putting a lot of pressure on China, saying, okay, you guys have accumulated too much trade surplus, and you guys have been hoarding up all this foreign currency. You should invest in our country. So they wanted us to invest in the West. I said, okay, fine, we took out some and we established this. That's why the CIC is not allowed to invest in China. China is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and our people have most of our expertise in knowing the Chinese economy, but we're not allowed to invest in China. We're thrown out in the cold, and we have to compete with other people, and very often at a disadvantage. So now, I certainly agree with Mr. Lin Yifu that we should probably do more of that, but we need to have all the governments get together and say, okay, let's view the world economy as a whole and try to correct the present imbalance by helping each other, rather than everyone trying so hard to help itself. And in the end, what happened was what we saw, around the turn of the First World War, when every country starts to hoard its own trade and putting up very high tariffs and trying to exclude other people's exports. That's happening right now. There is such danger that many countries in the world now start to say, okay, we don't like the Chinese exports, or for that matter, other countries are exporting, and we just want our money to stay in our own country. But that wouldn't help anyone, because we already know, history already told us that that's counterproductive. So, we really need to, I think the human society has become a little more smart and a little better, history-oriented, and we know what happened before, so we should be able to do that in a better way.
All right. Well, you talk about investment. We also have, as we said with Mr. Song, other ways of doing partnership with African companies. Some of our audience have had the question earlier before I came into the hall. They say Chinese companies are only cooperating with the government of Africa countries. They are only cooperating with what is relevant to the Chinese version of state-owned companies in Africa, rather than with the private sector. With many of the representatives of the private sector from Africa sitting here today, Mr. Song, what exactly is your strategy?
Well, it's a very, very good question. I think the Africa continental is changing. If you compare the situation now with 4 or 5 years ago, many a big change happened. So Sinohydra, or other Chinese companies, we are changing our strategy also. We are doing directly investment in Africa. So I'll give you 2 examples. Now we are at the final stage to close all the documents for the beauty of Kafue-Loa in Zambia and cement factory in Mozambique. For the Kafue-Loa, the hydropower in Zambia, we partnership with local company, but a state-owned company. But I'll give you another example. Now we are discussing with Zambia local private company. We are going to do good together to invest a river for the hydropower. So we are changing our strategy. We are going to work together more closely with local companies.
Not only local companies working with them, but also the capital for the local companies. Ms. Yan, and therefore let's have you weigh into this question. Some audience members have raised the question, this goes like this. We keep hearing access to capital is a huge problem in Africa. And foreign companies in China also struggle to raise capital. How can private sector finance its own growth? It's mainly about access to capital. So would you like to weigh in on that? Not only in China, but also in Africa.
That's a good question. Yeah, so I think, so I want to bring your question between China and Africa, what is way to financing? Yes, of course, today, so how to get access to the financing for all, mainly for Chinese companies here, is we can see mainly with governmental support. This means we have a lot of projects which has been done with concessional loans of the Chinese government, export credit, and also, like this morning we said, we saw this China African Fund at Chinese bank setting up with $1 billion to invest in the equity in African projects. So of course, I think it's interesting to think about what could be the new way, a new financial model to finance, to invest in Africa. Some of them in the audience, since today's discussion, mentioned the PPP model. I think all this new orientation for Chinese companies' investment in Africa need to be explored. And I want to come back again to Mr. Zhang Ping's points. I think it's very interesting indeed. China and Africa is a mutual needed partner. That means China, with its huge industrial growth, we need the natural resources, mining, etc. And also we need to explore the new potential market with the Chinese big groups development such as Sino-Hydro. I think since 30 years reform in China, a lot of Chinese companies, not only state-owned company, but also private companies, they are now among the becoming, they're in the voice of becoming the world champion among the world companies, the top world leaders in their sector. So they need also the new market. So African offer certainly this potential market for Chinese companies. And for African country, for Africa, they need money. Like you said, they need financing, they need technology, they need also Chinese companies' experience for their own industrialization. So I think all this complementary point make us a master partner. And also, I think for the Chinese investment, they should be more oriented in manufacturing sector, bring the value-added training and also increase employment. This could be certainly very supportive for sustainable development in Africa.
Before we have Mr. Ping to respond to your points, let's have Mr. Yang to respond to what Chairman Ping just mentioned, which is China and Africa right now. Let's not talk about anymore. Did I interpret right, Mr. Ping? The traditional quote-unquote friendship, let's just talk about business. Mr. Yang, what do you think about that option? 杨先生刚才呢，让平先生提到了一个非常有趣的观点，就是中非之间呢，我们现在更多的是属于商业上的利益的一种共赢。我不知道您怎么看待传统的友谊和现在商业共赢之间的这种关系？谢谢。
这个传统的友谊啊，这是双方都认可的，所以它是有生命力的。但是传统的友谊啊，必须要得到巩固发展。那么中非啊，在传统友谊的基础上， 我们不仅要在政治上讲友好，还要推动经济、文化、社会各方面的合作，来巩固我们的传统的友谊，发展我们传统的友谊。那么，中国同非洲的合作呢，这是一个长期的战略性的选择，那是不管情况如何改变，那么中国有些原则是绝不会变的。比如说，那么中国将长期永远要尊重非洲各国的主权和他们的发展道路，绝不干涉他们的内政。那么再有呢，就是我们对非洲各国啊，总是这个平等相待，总是要坚持在互利共赢的基础上来合作。再有呢，中国对非洲我们有些援助，但是这种援助啊，不附加任何政治条件，而且我们认为这种援助是相互的。我们特别要感谢非洲的朋友，那么对中国经济建设的支持，在国际一些重大事务当中，同中国的密切的合作，尤其是涉及到中国的核心利益的问题，对我们的支持。所以，我想呢，我们本着这样一个原则，然后又不断地推进中非的合作，我们的传统友谊一定会得到巩固，并且会不断得到发展。
Well, it seems Chairman Ping, Mr. Yang is very confident, not only about the current win-win situation, but also about the traditional friendship. Your comment?
Let's talk business first,
And then,
and then friendship.
can you do the two tracks all at the same time?
Well,
Can we do that all at the same time?
Yes, of course, of course. It is necessary to be done at the same time. You can't do business if you don't have a friendly
And trust.
Environment. Well, the presence of Sino Hydro is crucial. Now Africa is going to move to green economy, fast, green economy, for a certain number of reasons. Now, Sino Hydro is one of these important firms in terms of building dams, etc. What about the rest? Because many oil companies here are already moving to the green economy. I've received a letter coming from a certain number of enterprises of oil asking African Union to work with them in terms of boosting green economy. So, as you know, we have the biggest river in the world, not only the Nile River, Congo River, Niger, etc., Zambezi, etc. But we have also solar energy. We have also wind. We have biomass. Let me tell you that the most uncultivated land, arable land in the world is in Africa. About 20 or 26% of the world uncultivated Arab land is in Africa. And this morning we talk about agriculture, also the importance of agriculture. To develop agriculture where 80% of our population lives, we need many things, including the problem of food security, the management of the soil, the management of water, irrigation, the problem of management of the whole chain of production, etc. So, are you already moving to that green economy or remaining only with the dams? If you don't do it, you will lose.
And of course, it's important to make progress together.
Of course.
After China bringing the projects over here, Africans can learn as well and prosper on top of that. We hope that is the process. Well, we know that there are many questions among the audience who want to address our panelists today. So let's have you raise the hand, and our colleagues will be able to pass you with a microphone. This gentleman in the very front line, yes. Please, introduce yourself very briefly, give a question. Thank you.
My name is Sheikh Ibrahim Diong. I'm from Senegal, the Senior Africa Advisor of BNP Paribas. But in the previous life, I was a minister in the office of the government of Senegal, President of Senegal, I should say, in charge of China. Two questions. First of all, to Chairman Ping, one of the problems that I've seen in my experience dealing with China is the weak capacities of African government to negotiate well when they deal with the Chinese in terms of mining contract and oil contracts and so on. So the question is, at the Commission, what do you do to build the capacities of the African government themselves that allows them to negotiate better and get the best deal so that they don't sign mining contracts and oil deals for the next 20 years and happen they did not get the deal? Because in my view, in my previous experience, that's why I see the weakest part of the African governments themselves.
Right.
The second question to the Chinese panelists, there is a perception and the reality. The perception is the Chinese government or companies, they see Africa as two Africa. The one that has natural resources, the South Sudan, the Angola, the Nigerias, who have a facility to get these concessional financing very easily. And you get the rest of Africa, which is where I'm from, Senegal, that doesn't have the resources and take a little bit longer, and they tend to have projects in building stadiums and other projects or culturally driven projects which are important, but they're not structured projects that can create jobs, massive jobs in African countries. So the question is that a perception, or is that a reality and the way you look at Africa as to Africa?
Okay, and you're asking, is it the responsibility of the Chinese?
Yes.
Okay, let's have Chairman Ping to address that first.
Oui, bon, je crois que vous avez tout à fait raison. Nous avons une faiblesse incroyable en matière de négociation avec les Chinois. Les Chinois sont des négociateurs durs, partout, négocient durement. Et en face, nous avons parfois des gens qui ne comprennent même pas les enjeux. Ils ne comprennent même pas les enjeux. Je sais de quoi je parle. Alors, à partir de ce moment-là, c'est un langage qui n'est pas très clair. Alors, il y a la possibilité de se faire entourer, quand on est faible, de conseils. De plus en plus, on dit, on confie des travaux à telle entreprise, mais on va s'adresser à un autre pays pour venir nous aider à surveiller les travaux, à vérifier que les travaux se fassent conformément au cahier des charges. Donc, la négociation est une chose importante avec n'importe qui, mais j'allais dire surtout avec les Chinois. Bon. Alors, c'est dramatique de constater qu'on ne comprend pas les enjeux. Dramatique. Dramatique. Les Chinois sont aujourd'hui le marché. Dans les matières premières, c'est le marché. La demande, elle est chinoise. Tous les autres qui viennent là, qu'il s'agisse de Brésiliens ou d'autres, viennent pour vendre à la Chine. Et si vous travaillez avec eux, le marché final, c'est les Chinois. Donc il faut comprendre tout ça et négocier en connaissance de cause. Vous voyez? Alors, je pense qu'on peut corriger ça en s'entourant de l'expertise requise. Mais quand on ne sait pas, on va se renseigner, on demande. On ne fait pas comme si on savait. Vous voyez? Alors, d'autre part, la deuxième question, elle est aussi importante. Évidemment, les investissements vont surtout là où les besoins de la Chine se font sentir avec acuité, les matières premières. Mais de plus en plus, nous voyons la diversification de l'économie chinoise dans domaine de la construction. Voyez-vous, j'ai discuté avec un représentant de la Chine, il m'a dit ceci, j'espère que je ne vexerai personne. La différence qu'il y a entre nous et l'Inde, nous Chinois et l'Inde, c'est que toutes nos infrastructures sont en place, modernes. Les trains à plus grande vitesse, etc., tout est en place, aussi bien dans le domaine routier, ferroviaire, aéroportuaire, tout est en place. Ce n'est pas encore le cas de l'Inde et nous avons une avance sur l'Inde en ayant ces infrastructures en place. Nous avons besoin d'infrastructures. Nous avons besoin d'infrastructures. Il faut y penser. Et dans le domaine des constructions de barrages, l'Europe a terminé de construire ces barrages il y a 50 ans. Les Chinois sont en train, avec par exemple les 3 gorges, the Three Gorges, ils sont en train, avec l'aide de l'Europe d'ailleurs, voyez, de développer leur technologie en matière de construction de barrages. Les routes et le reste, c'est la même chose. Ils font des progrès fantastiques. Il faut donc savoir négocier. Il faut assurer le contrôle. Ça, c'est essentiel.
A very practical Chairman Peng, with Africa in the heart, I can tell. Let's have that practical spirit in mind. Mr. Gao, would you like to address our friend's question concerning, is it China's responsibility to invest everywhere in Africa?
I wouldn't want to
Sorry
say
for
it's
that
anyone's
interpretation.
responsibility to invest anywhere because, we grew up studying Karl Marx, Lenin, Chairman Mao, okay? Karl Marx said the workers have no motherlands. And in fact, today, when you actually look at capital, capital knows no boundaries of state. Wherever there's profit to be made, the capital will go there. There's not that much of a difference for the Chinese capital as compared to any capital in the world. That we have to be, Chairman Peng said, let's talk about business. That I have to be very blunt about. I myself, I love Africa, I love African people, and I have a lot of friends here. But at the same time, when you talk about business, you have to talk about business. You can't say, okay, you love this country, please give your money to that country and get nothing back. That, if I personally have that money, I would do, unfortunately. But I certainly, I'm very sensitive towards the fact that when you actually talk in business terms with the Chinese, and you see, Chairman Peng just mentioned that very often you see this sort of imbalance between the, on both sides of the negotiation table. That was exactly the case 30 years ago in China. And the reason why I went to the United States and studied law there was because, I was already a lawyer in China, I already studied law. Then when we sat at the tables with American negotiators, we found that the language they were talking about was way beyond our comprehension. It was their own, they come out with so much confidence and so much sort of tongue-in-cheek kind of a righteousness that, well, it's the rule, right? It's been the rule for 100 years. You guys don't know it. Let us tell you what it is. That today, we are very conscious of that, and we study their rules, and we are trying to do that with them. And I think the same actually is happening, because I've been coming to Africa quite a few times for the past 12 years. And there's a tremendous amount of difference today when you talk to African businessmen, African leaders, African government officials, as compared to 12 years ago. In those days, I visited quite a few countries, and the level of sophistication in modern Western-style capital market was very different. And today, I was struck. Every time I came here, I talked to all the people. I said, gosh, there's so much talent in this continent.
Right.
So much talent that, everyone here, we talk to the government leaders, the business people, lots of talent. The thing is, you need a system to attract these people into both the government and the business. And you need to establish the kind of infrastructure that would encourage people to come back into the country and make money. This is what the Chinese government has been doing for the past 20 years. The government has been, even in our company today, we pay a lot more to people with the kind of talent learned from the Western countries and to our company. And my salary is about 1/4 of what our best professionals have, because we just simply want these people to come in to work
And
for
that is
it.
not a complaint, I see.
I've been working for peanuts for my life.
All right.
So-
It is true that China, we were facing with the brain drain situation years ago. But
Years
with the
ago.
country's economy
Now it's the
fast-moving,
reverse.
People are coming back just
Are
like
coming
that.
back.
Uh,
But I have
magic.
full confidence in this continent, in all the African countries that I have been dealing with, that, in a few years' time, you're going to have, the same amount of, business sophistication and same amount of skills to talk about a business.
It's already the case.
Yes,
It is
yes,
already
yes.
the case. All right, more questions from the floor. Let's have this gentleman over there in the middle, if we can. Briefly, a question, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Looking at the topic is too broad.
And you're where are you from?
My name is Garang from South Sudan, Minister of Commerce, Industry and Investment. Looking at the topic is China and Africa, the topic is too broad. We are discussing part of the topic, that is economic cooperation with China. But for China business to flourish in Africa, China has to contribute in the building stability in Africa. And Chairman Ping has alluded to that China should play a proactive role in bringing peace between the two Sudans, South Sudan and the Sudan. Right now, the China investment in Sudan is in danger. There's billions of dollars. But China, and this is a question to Ping, Chairman, thank you for supporting the Sudanese to come to peace. Is China playing the role that others are playing to try to bring stability to the continent so that they can do the business in the environment that's conducive for business? Thank you.
Thank you. You want to address this, Chairman Ping? No.
Je crois que vous connaissez la prudence des Chinois. Vous avez vu comment ils ont démarré en tournant en rond. Maintenant, on est rentré dans le sujet. Je crois que les Chinois, dans un premier temps, avaient le sentiment qu'on n'avait pas besoin d'eux dans cette affaire. Effectivement, on n'avait pas besoin d'eux pour régler les problèmes qui se posaient entre le Nord et le Sud. Il s'agissait pour nous d'aller à l'essentiel, d'abord au référendum. Pas question de changer des dates comme le voulaient certains. On avait prévu de longues dates, il fallait aller au référendum. Le référendum a donné les résultats que vous connaissez. Une large majorité a opté pour la séparation plutôt que pour l'union. Nous avons considéré que ça, c'est un sujet essentiel. 40 ans, vous vous êtes battus pour avoir ça. Vous l'avez obtenu. Maintenant, il y a des sujets qui restaient en suspens. Le problème de la frontière d'Abyei, les problèmes du Sud Kordofan, du Nil bleu, Blue Nile, South Kordofan, les problèmes du pétrole, etc., etc. Et c'est là que les Chinois sentent aujourd'hui, et nous aussi, qu'ils doivent jouer un rôle. Parce que la plupart des champs sont à la frontière. Même si la majorité se retrouve au Sud-Soudan, beaucoup de champs sont à la frontière. Et il n'y a rien à faire que de coopérer dans ce domaine-là. Vous savez, l'une des raisons de l'avancée de la guerre Irak-Koweït, c'était le champ pétrolier qui se trouvait à la frontière des deux pays. Chacun accusant l'autre de pomper plus que l'autre. Voyez-vous ? Donc, ce sont des questions qui sont importantes à régler lorsqu'un champ se trouve à la frontière de deux pays. Il n'y a rien à faire, à mon avis, dans ce domaine-là, que de trouver un accord. Vous voyez ce qui est arrivé, le Nord-Soudan, pour des raisons multiples, a essayé d'empêcher l'exportation du pétrole par Port-Soudan. Les Soudanais ont réagi fermement en fermant les pétroles, en fermant les puits du pétrole. Donc nous nous retrouvons aujourd'hui dans une situation où, pour construire un nouveau pipeline qui passerait par un des pays de l'Afrique de l'Est, ça prendra 2-3 ans. Qu'est-ce que nous allons faire entre ces 2-3 ans? Est-ce que nous allons laisser les gisements de pétrole dont vous avez besoin pour développer votre économie comme ça? Il faut donc qu'il y ait des gens susceptibles de nous aider. Nous sommes là pour ça, avec l'ONU, avec tout le monde, mais je crois que la contribution des Chinois est importante.
All right, the contribution of the Chinese is very important. Also, Chinese are like everybody else, want to see peace and stability on the African continent as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're really running out of time. Our producers are saying in their wonderful voices, time is up, through my earpiece. So we will have to conclude this specific session. We want to thank for all of your support, particularly those who have been asking questions and also sending their questions through our wonderful iPad. And there seems to be two messages that we can get with us at the wrap-up of this session. One is just as Hamlet said many hundred years ago, the readiness is all. It seems that African continent is ready to rise up. And secondly, to take with us, it's an African old and ancient saying, if the road is good, it will be traveled many times. It seems that is a case of China and Africa partnership. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you so much for the panelists for being with us. Thank you for your time. Thank you.